Yes, it's me. It's me. It's the MIC, Craig, aka Mr. Impact, back with another special edition of TBN Chats right here on the TNA IW channel. And I'm so pleased to introduce our next guest, voice of so many promotions in the UK, from Kamikaze to Odyssey Pro Wrestling, from into the esports world to radio. If I list their CV, I'll be here all night. It's Simon Hill. Simon, how's it going?
Very well, my friend. Very well. Thank you so much for the introduction. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I think you just kind of listed a great CV. It's weird to think that that's mine, but yeah, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
No, it's pleasure's all ours. I'm glad to have you on. As I said off camera, we cover a lot of British wrestling on here, and it's nice to have a different perspectives from different people, from the pro wrestlers to commentary to ring announcing to referees to everyone involved in Brit Wrestling, because it's just a whole thing, and the better perspective we can get on it, the more reach we'll have, and the more people who will watch British wrestling in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. It's just, I think the scope of British wrestling now is at its peak. It's really kind of getting there. And I've had this conversation a few times. I feel like right now, British wrestling is the best it's been. I think if we're not at least where we were in 2016, 2017, we're definitely on par with. So yeah, you're absolutely spot on, man. It's becoming a whole entity in itself right now. It's really exciting to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's obviously in the past few years, because of varying different things, British wrestling scene has been its peak, and it's dropped a bit and peaked again, dropped a bit, but now it feels a lot different than it did in the previous years. It feels a lot stronger than when the whole WWE UK tournament came about. Obviously, that's where it was at its highest, and now it's finally getting back to that peak again.
Yeah,
and it's
definitely
only a good thing. So I just want to talk about, obviously, because obviously I did a bit of research before we came on, and you started off in radio, am I correct?
Yes, yeah, a long time ago now, but yeah, I did indeed. Kerrang Radio is where I kind of began everything, and that's where I learned off the best of the best, and it was a hard lesson as well. I was really put through some intense situations where you have to think on the spot, and you have no choice but to step up when you're surrounded by some of the best radio presenters and producers in the country. So I was very fortunate to get that opportunity to learn on that platform and learn from some of the best in the world, especially some of the best that have been around the UK on radio, and now some of them have transitioned into national TV stars. So yeah, I was very fortunate to be in that position. But yeah, that's where it all began, way back when.
So from radio, how did the esports come about, and then eventually the pro wrestling side of things? How did that come around?
So after radio, I kind of went from Kerrang Radio to free radio. Some people may know that as formerly known as BRMB, then onto the BBC. And I went into acting. I had a little stint in acting. I was in some dramas such as like Doctors, Line of Duty, By Any Means, and stuff like that. And acting, I loved it, but it was so competitive and occasionally quite challenging and draining that at that point in my life, I wasn't ready for it. If I went back now, don't get me wrong, I watch shows and I'm like, oh, man, I miss it, like I really do. But I went into TV by simply pitching a gaming idea. I was already a journalist within the gaming sector, writing various reviews and articles for multiple publications. And I thought to myself, when I was growing up, we had Games Master, which was a great TV show with Dominic Diamond, I think it was. And we don't really have anything like that anymore. So I create this whole pitch treatment, which I'd never wrote before. I'd never written a treatment in my life, so I had no idea what I was doing. It was just research and looking at how people do things. And I wrote this full treatment of a TV show, pitched it to some execs where I was producing various shows, and they just snapped it up straight away. And we actually filmed the pilot at EGX, which is the UK's biggest gaming convention. So I was under this 60-foot TIE fighter with cameras, lights, production, everything around me, being filmed, doing the intro for this new show. Scared is an understatement, because obviously being put in that situation, you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people watching you, wondering what the hell's going on, all these cameras and lights standing under this huge structure. And it was commissioned for 3 seasons, and we filmed that 3 times a week. And that's how I got into esports, building contacts, building a network, and really connecting with people, obviously building a show reel whilst I was presenting the show to show what I could do, the varied ranges and stuff like that. So I got an opportunity on multiple occasions. Obviously, I think the biggest one that really got me to break through everything was the Just Dance World Cup. So I got to host that, and that was phenomenal. 4 days straight of just hosting for Ubisoft, and that was a special moment. And one of the funniest parts of that is my coach now in wrestling, Sam Bailey, was hosting on the other stage, only meters away from me. We didn't actually know each other back then. We knew of each other, but we didn't know each other. But yeah, now he trains me wrestling, and I see him backstage at shows pretty much every week or every other week. So it's mad how the world works like that. And yeah, the transition then went obviously into esports and Just Dance, various stage shows. Obviously got flown to Poland to work for ESL, one of the biggest esports organizations in the world. Last year, that was an experience I'll never forget. Hoping to do that again this year. And the transition into professional wrestling kind of came in between all of that. It started in between all of that. I've been in professional wrestling now for about 4 years, which is 5 minutes to some people. Started as a backstage interviewer at TNT Extreme Wrestling. I'd actually done some ring announcing at some minor kind of holiday camp shows previous to that, but TNT was kind of where I made that breakthrough. And I remember my first show was DOA, which was a stacked card from Ricochet Page, Charlie Evans, Clint Margera, Jack Jester. The list goes on. Obviously, Kings of the North were there, I believe, defending the tag titles. Lizzie Evo, she won the title the show after that, I believe. But anyway, it was a very stacked card. It was huge. And I still remember the final of DOA was Clint Margera versus Ricochet Page. And Clint Margera has just launched this light tube at Ricochet Page. Ricochet Page has kicked it out of the air, mid-air. I'm standing by the stage, kind of observing, getting notes for the interviews after that. The second half of that light tube comes flying my way, and I literally just move out and it lands behind me, and I'm like, do I really want to do this for a living? What an introduction into professional wrestling. So yeah, that's kind of how it all started and where it all began. And the journey ever since has kind of took that gradual step, as a lot of people do who kind of dedicate themselves and put that work in. They make that gradual evolution from backstage interviewer to ring announcer to commentary, and it's been one hell of a journey for sure.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, you mentioned back to the esports when you first started there, and you said being scared was an understatement. Was like, obviously, I suppose when it comes to radio, you have that almost security blanket of no one can necessarily see you; they can only hear you. And that obviously with this whole thing we do here on the channel, this is only my maybe an 8th ever interview.
Oh wow!
So
Wow, nice, man.
it's still quite new, and obviously obviously nerves still build up.
Yeah.
How do you find it now when it goes to doing a wrestling show? Do you still feel that nervous energy? Was it kind of died down a little bit?
No, absolutely. I feel nervous every time before I go through that curtain. Before I step on stage, I get the anxious nerves. But what I've learned to do, and I think this is just simply by being surrounded by people who are able to teach me how to do it, was control them. So I project that nervous energy into my first link, into my first outburst. Whatever I'm doing, if I'm on a stage, those nerves are my first few lines of what I'm gonna say. Same on commentary, when especially at Odyssey, because they give us a full entrance and everything, and before we come through that curtain, Kurt and I were pacing, we're waiting for it, and the second you step out, you let those nerves, you ride them. You let them be that first bit of energy that you project to everyone else, and that is certainly something that takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of time, because even in radio, before that mic fader went up, you'd absolutely be nervous, because you're expected to deliver something good, something organic, but something engaging for however many thousands are listening. So it's yeah, I absolutely still get nervous, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, so you obviously mentioned earlier as well that you've started training to wrestle.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
was that something you've always wanted to do, or has it been just sitting behind a desk, seeing what's going on in the ring, thinking, yeah, I can feel the itch starting now?
If I'm being completely honest, so I've spoken about this, that initially I wanted to get in the ring and learn, because it would help me understand how to deliver different concepts and angles on commentary, understand how the movement works, understand how everything in that ring is put together for me to be able to deliver and understand more, to be better at commentary, because I'm always about evolution. I'm always about growth. I'm always about being able to project something positive and be able to elevate to the next level. And that's what I've done for the whole of my career. But if I'm being completely honest, obviously it's always been an interest. I'm very athletic anyway. I've always, a very avid gym goer. I've played football for 5-6 years straight, every week. So I've always been very sporty, but obviously growing up on wrestling from a young age, I think I've always wanted to try it and wanted to get involved in it. I went for obviously research purposes, and knowing Sam Bailey, I was like, well, Future Shock is the best school in the country. I'm obviously going to go there, and I don't mind making that 2-hour round trip to go, because it is the best place to learn, and you're surrounded in such a great positive environment where people aren't afraid to help you and get involved. It's not about that person, it's about the team. But I got the itch. I was training at Future Shock, coming back to the Hunters Gym in the Midlands, and kind of practicing everything I'd learned at Future Shock to make sure I could go back and be good at it, and keep learning and keep growing, making sure I was getting things right. And, I wasn't afraid on getting it wrong. I would keep practicing. And, yeah, it's I absolutely did get the itch, and it was one of those where I was like, okay, this is becoming a bit more than research now. I don't know where it's going to lead. If it does lead to anything, we'll see. Right now, I'm out injured after a surgery that happened in March, so I'm just on the recovery wagon at the moment, waiting for all that to go away for me to get back in the ring.
I mean, I know I can understand where you come from with the getting the itch thing and just wanted to learn a bit more about how it goes on, because on the podcast I did with British wrestler called Peter Nixon, and hearing him talk about going to shows, being in the ring, it's always something I've wanted to do and nearly have gone through with. Like I bought knee pads about 2 years ago and still haven't used them. But now because I'm Midlands based, so it's always maybe I'll go to the Kamikaze Dojo or over here.
Yeah.
So I can completely understand where you're coming from on the wanting to learn a bit more. But I mean, as far as the commentary side of things go, or even going to a show, what's your show day routine like when you wake up, go to the venue? Is it in between?
Yeah. So I mean, on show day, I plan everything around that show because I am first expected to deliver, a good product to expand on the products that I'm being hired for, and also to, make sure that I'm connecting with everyone, on the same level. So, usually, usual way of going about things for me is I will get up, I will, grab my porridge and my energy foods, my bananas and stuff. I will go for a quick session at the gym, get myself nice and pumped up, make the travel, make the trip to wherever I am, whether that be Liverpool, Morecambe, Chorley, Birmingham. And I'll get there nice and early, start talking to everyone, get the same feel that, what the show's about and what we're here to deliver. And then what I tend to do, without trying to pull the curtain back too much, is I will sit down with every single person on that roster that evening or day, and I will find out what they want me to be able to portray for them during their match, because obviously I'm there to not only just commentate the match, but to get that talent over as much as possible. That, it's not just about, the move transitions, it's about the story. How can I create and build a story that allows the fans to get involved, get engaged, get interacting? And that's what I enjoy the most, is because I'm able to help paint a picture. The guys in the ring do a phenomenal job of doing that anyway, but if I can add to that, then absolutely I'm going to do that, and I'm going to go out of my way to do it the best to my ability. So then after that, then, I take a lot of notes, and then, we get ready to go live. And after the show, it's a very big, deep breath, a big kind of sigh of relief that, obviously it all went well. And I will sit with the general manager and kind of go through feedback and anything like that. And then it's on to the next.
Yeah, I mean, you touched it on a little bit there, but what would you say is the most important aspect of commentary? Is it telling the story, or is it getting the talent over? Is it or is it all just one big thing that needs to happen?
Yeah, I think commentary is a full package. Obviously, you're there to absolutely call the match. That is front and center. But to be able to create and tell a story and help expand the story that the talent are trying to tell, that is also very important, because if they are putting all that work in the ring trying to tell this story, and you're not able to expand on that for the viewers by giving them, backstory, how does this impact the next show? How does this impact the talent going forward? You're essentially trying to open that book, and how can I read it in a way that will allow me to get engaged in that story and get fully invested? And I think that's also very important. Research for me is the most important thing in commentary. Obviously, delivery as well. You're not just going to rock up and start speaking without having some form of idealistic like vocabulary. Do you know what I mean? There's a specific way you should be delivering commentary and a specific way that impacts that brand. So obviously find the tonality of that suits the brand. So TNT commentary is very different from Odyssey, and Kamikaze is very different from Odyssey as well. LWF is also very different from the way that I would do TNT. So it's all about finding what the tonality of the brand is, how you would deliver that, how would you paint that picture, and then kind of work around it. And I practice makes permanent. I was taught that by Sam Bailey. It's not practice makes perfect, because nothing is ever perfect, but practice makes permanent. Work on your delivery, work on your vocabulary, your diction, and be able to expand on a story and a moveset. I think that's incredibly important for modern day commentary to be engaging. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Even doing this interviewing thing, I spend, when I get the date of when of the recording for whoever is coming on the show, I spend a day and a half researching, make sure I know what's going on, make sure, so it's research is important, and practice makes permanent sums it up perfectly, I think.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And I think that applies to most things in life. Nothing is ever perfect. There's always room to grow. There's always new things to learn. There's always room to maneuver in what you want to achieve in life. And it's not about being perfect. It's about being able to be proud of what you're doing and what you're offering as a person, as a human being, as a professional, to connect with people. I do what I do because I love doing what I do, and I love entertaining. I love being able to give people an outlet or an escape. So if one person hears my commentary or watches a show that I am hosting or a stage or whatever, and they're able to be positive after it or take something away from it, perfect. That one person was worth everything that I do, because it's made a positive impact on somebody. So that's the reason I do what I do.
Yeah, and I was at the Kamikaze show where you made a commentary debut.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But also I noticed, obviously, on social media that you were at a Kamikaze show a few months back as a fan. How is it going from a fan watching it to calling it, and you being the main voice people hear when they watch Kamikaze on demand?
Yeah, obviously it's very different. I was invited to that show I went to as a fan, which was an incredible show. The comedy match with Simon Miller, Hannah Taylor, Hustle Malone, plenty of others in there, was incredible. It was great.
Yeah.
Really, really enjoyed that. But yeah, obviously I think the thing, working in the business now for so long, you go to a show as a fan, you enjoy what you're watching, but you look at it very differently. So now that I'm behind the commentary desk at Kamikaze, is obviously very different. And yeah, I remember sitting down before the show with Colin, and he kind of fed me all the backstory of what was going on. So I was just taking notes, and then my usual way of doing things kicked in. So I sat down with everyone and kind of got what I needed to get, and hopefully it came across really well. To be quite honest, the feedback from Kamikaze has been one of the best bunch of like messages, DMs, calls, and everything that I think I've ever had. So hopefully long may that continue. I have been invited back to the 9th anniversary, which is going to be very exciting. That poster is unreal. The amount of talent that are on that show, I mean, I don't think I've seen a stronger show so far this year in this country. So I think it's going to be a very, very special show, and to be able to be a small part of that is very special and very humbling.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like a phenomenal card already.
Yeah.
And the likes of Lana Austin, Session Martina, Charles Crowley, who are just some of the best in the country. And likes of Chantal Jordan, who will be, if not already, will be a massive, massive star. It's clear. And so Kamikaze is kind of like myself and my family. That's the show we go to. Like my sister, who was never even a wrestling fan, first ever wrestling event she went to was Kamikaze, and with the comedy match you mentioned with Simon Miller, Hustle Malone, people. So it's being a fan is obviously, being a wrestling fan is, I don't think there's anything quite like it.
No, I agree.
So how when it comes to British wrestling, like, who do you see as someone or some people who are like carrying it to the next level? Who, just to pick out a few that you've seen or had been fortunate to call a match for?
That I've been fortunate to call a match for.
Yeah.
So I think the most overlooked tag team on this continent, not just in the UK, are Kings of the North. I think they are and should be absolutely everywhere. They should be touring the world. I think any promotion that is looking for a solid tag team that work incredibly hard, that are dedicated to what they do and determined to make a mark and leave this scene in a better place, there is no one better than Kings of the North, in my opinion. There are some other great tag teams out there, don't get me wrong, but I think if you're talking about the pinnacle, I think Kings of the North right now are on top of that mountain. ICW tag team champions, OTT tag team champions, TNT tag team champions. You know, they should be Progress tag team champions. They should be going over to WXW and you know, making some noise over there as well. Obviously, my good friends La Rebellion are coming over. You know, NWA tag team champions, which was something that was discussed a couple of years ago now. Obviously, when they won the NWA tag titles, that's when I started pitching for all of that. It helps that I'm best mates with John, but you know, so that, to see that all come through now, that's going to be amazing. That's going to really put Kings of the North on the map. So hopefully NWA bring them over, get them involved. So that would be something real special. Other people, for me, women's wrestling is just turning into wrestling now, which is what we need. That's the next step, the next part of the evolution. For me, they are putting on sometimes more of a spectacle than the guys, and they are really coming out the gate. They are really entertaining from start to finish. And I love watching women's wrestling. I can't wait for the day that we stop labeling it that. You know, I know that it's easy to do, but it's clear that the women are here to fight, and they're here to go, and they are training just as hard, as if not harder, than some of the guys, and they're really showing out. So I think for me there's a plethora of amazing women out there. I've obviously called several of Chantel's matches, a couple of different promotions. She, only at 18 now, is phenomenal. It's scary that she's still 18. She did tell me the other day to check out Ghetto Golf. I can't believe she's been before me, but you know, she's a phenomenal athlete, and I know she's dying to get over to Japan. So she's definitely one. Obviously, you know, I got to call a lot of the Lizzie Evo Alexis Falcon feud last year. which took the whole of the country by storm. So that was an honour, that was a privilege, that was incredible to see the growth of both women from when I first met them to where they are now. Obviously, Lizzie Evo, renamed Eliza Alexander, doing great things at NXT. I think Dan Maloney is a specimen of a man. Adam Maxted, for me, is another one that is criminally overlooked. And how that man doesn't have a contract. He doesn't just look like a star. He is a star. In the ring, he is phenomenal. And he's been there already with some of the best in the world. I mean, you go back a few years, he wrestled in the main event against Drew McIntyre at OTT, and it was a phenomenal match. And Drew actually got on the mic and said, "This guy's the future. Like, more eyes need to be on him." Now, that's coming from one of the most influential stars in professional wrestling. I've been lucky enough to call a few of Adam's matches, and we've got to know each other outside of wrestling, and I think he really is somebody who's just waiting for that contract. He's so close to it. I think I could go on for ages. I mean, for me, again, another young star, Tom Thelwell. I think he's a phenomenal athlete. I was asked if I do end up wrestling, who would be my dream opponent? Now, bear in mind all of the amazing names that are in this country, all of the great talent, the worldwide great talent. My first pick was Tom Thelwell, because I think that guy is a freak of nature. He has the charisma, the energy, the skill, the talent. He's obviously now found this new attitude, and it really suits him. And I think he's another one that has just gone from strength to strength to strength. And again, the kid's still, what, 19, 20? It's scary what he can do in a ring at that age.
Yeah.
And a champion at catch, and making waves up and down the country. So I think it's a matter of time before we see him at OTT or Progress or wherever it is. Maybe they fly him out in Europe. I think he deserves that big break. I really do. ICW, it'd be great to see him up there as well.
Yeah, I agree. I've had the pleasure of seeing him at the first catch show back from the pandemic, and just incredible.
Yeah.
Wasn't familiar with him, but now I'm very familiar with him. So
yes, yeah.
Great talent.
Going to absolutely beg Ethan at Odyssey Pro Wrestling and James at Kamikaze to get him on those shows, because he really deserves those bookings. He's one of those talents that I would just love to see absolutely everywhere, and I think he could be a champion everywhere. I really do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So I want to be super respectful of your time. You could talk forever, but I'll finish on this. I end every interview the same way. In the next 3 years, and just to put it out there, where would you want to be? Where do you see yourself in the next 3 years? You could do anything, whether it be in wrestling or just in life. Where do you want to be in the next 3 years?
I want to leave everything that I get to do in that 3 years. I want to leave in a better place. I want to know and be able to help connect with people, create that escape, create that entertainment that allows you to get invested in things you enjoy. So in 3 years, whether I'm still commentating at Odyssey Pro Wrestling, whether it's Kamikaze, or whether it's somewhere bigger, I just want people to remember that I was able to help entertain, create an escape, and build something that you were able to enjoy and get lost in at that time. So I just want to continue to do that, and also I want to continue to support the scene in any way I can and help build people up, help put people over, help expand on what they're already doing, all the amazing things that this scene and the amazing talent in it. Whether that is esports or wrestling, I want to be able to continue to help that be a bigger platform for people. So if there's anything that I can do to do that, then I'm absolutely going to do it.
See, I like asking that question because it's just varied answers, and it's always people really want to achieve great things. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for agreeing to do this. Just want to let everyone watching know where they can find you and where they potentially see you as well coming up.
Yeah, sure. And thank you so much for inviting me on. I was very excited to see your message. So yeah, glad that I was able to come on and have a good chat with you. I love having these kind of conversations because, not only is it kind of about the talent that you have on, but it's about being able to spread something positive. And I think that's why I was very excited to come on. So thank you for asking me to be a part of this. And as for finding me, I am on social media across Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Simon H Official. Keep it locked. The podcast is returning very soon. Obviously, you can find that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any kind of outlet that you get your podcasts. You'll see a whole host of amazing interviews that we've done over there, and that is making its return very soon. So go and check that out. As for merch, Wrestle Merch Central / Simon Hill, keep it locked, whichever one you want to go for. It's up there. There's loads of designs, t-shirts, beanies, everything in between, mugs and all that sort of stuff. We have got some new designs coming very soon to fit in with the relaunch of the podcast as well. As for shows, I will be at Odyssey Pro Wrestling's Mutiny. I'm going to have to look up the dates for these, aren't I now? I'm also at Kamikaze's 9th anniversary show. That one is the 24th of June at the Mill in Birmingham, and Mutiny is on Saturday the 18th of June in Morecambe. That one's going to be a very, very special show as well. There are other announcements booking wise that I've got coming up, but I am not allowed to say just yet, but they will be announced across my social medias very soon.
There you have it. You can follow us here at TNIW channel at TNIW channel on Twitter. Find us here, there, everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you podcast. I've been the MIC. Until next time, goodbye, my friends.